Hi, I'm Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that focuses on musicians, authors, and interesting people. We like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. So sit back, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. This time on the podcast, a hard rock band from Kansas City. Their latest EP is called Memento Mori, and we're going to showcase several tracks from that release. The band is The Sound and the Fury. Joining me from the band, guitarist Aaron Ogle. How you doing, bud? How you doing?
Pretty good, Rick. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you on the show. Your music's wild. I love it. That's right in my wheelhouse, I guess you would say. From the beginning, how'd you get into music?
Oh man, I heard this song "Sympathy for the Devil."
Oh, Jesus, Stones.
And I recognize that as my father's song because he was a big Stones fan, almost like a Deadhead. Used to follow him around back in the day. Mm-hmm. Growing up listening to pop music and thinking of my dad's music as being like the old man's music type stuff. I heard "Sympathy for the Devil," recognize, hey, I talked to my brother, said that's one of Dad's songs, right? And I changed the station to like some country music that he was listening to at the time. Went home, told my dad, hey, play that song that goes, hoo, hoo. And he put it on. My dad loved it, dropped the record. I remember him laying in the middle of the living room floor, just absorbing it through the floorboards at full volume. And when the song was over, I turned to my dad and said, I think I want to play guitar. Now, if you remember, Rick, that song is like driving piano, maracas.
Yeah, it's got everything, yeah.
Very little guitar towards the end of it. But that piercing guitar by Keith Richards, I thought like it was literally music to my ears. And that drove me to want to play. Picked it up, took lessons for a little while, quickly transitioned from being a beginner guitar player to listening to Black Sabbath. And Black Sabbath just like first album Black Sabbath before Paranoid, that the rock jazz fusion into the rock format. I remember the song "The Warning" from Sabbath that just is like a 18-minute guitar solo almost on that first album. And I just fell in love with Tony Iommi on guitar. And I had to learn all the Mary Had a Little Lamb stuff. Yeah. But in the background, I'm learning Tony Iommi solos. And finally, when I got to show off to my teacher that I was, because we play like church recitals.
Oh, good Lord.
Black Sabbath and church recitals. It was so my dad loved it. My dad was a huge Black Sabbath fan. So it was really Sabbath and the Stones that introduced me to guitar, and it took off from there. I've just still to this day. I mean, just this weekend I was cranking up Rolling Stones and just listening to all of it. Like just put it on and let it play. And Sabbath is the same way. I still go back to those bands as they still influence me today. I still pick up things and still wonder how they did things. And I try to absorb everything from those two groups.
With the Stones touring right now, are you going to get a chance to see them on this tour?
Probably not. I hate to admit this, but I hate being in the audience. I just feel crazy. I mean, I have seen the Stones. They played Arrowhead out here several years ago, and I'm glad that I got to see them. It was probably about 8 years ago or so, and I really thought I was going to see them before they died. That was the mission. And I guess you could say that still again now, but I can't bring, the stadium tour environment. It's different than when in my youth where everything felt like it was about to pop off. Everybody's chill these days, but I just can't. I feel unsettled being around that large of a group.
I do too. I love going to my wife and I are huge supporters of the local music scene, and we're in Chicago area, so we get out a lot. But the thing is, I'm not a big fan of the huge concert things because there's just too much of a melee in the crowd going on, and it distresses me a whole lot. And you spend the entire show, people standing in front of you with their cell phone out, so you're watching. You paid good money to see your favorite artist through the phone of the person ahead of you, and it's irritating as hell.
It is. Yeah.
And it's weird how the seating is nowadays. It's like the seat right ahead of me is $67 more than what I paid. Why? It's a seat. It's just one row ahead of mine. It's
People are bigger and bigger, and the seats are smaller and smaller.
Absolutely right. Now, your band is called the Sound of the Fury. Origins of the band name, where'd that come from?
So originally we were called Alter Ego, and we found out that quickly needed to be changed due to somebody else having used it. And our singer, Jeff Wood, met him in high school. He was big into writing, creative writing, short stories, and a very creative person. He came forward with the idea, let's call it the Sound of the Fury. I don't know why we all agreed, because there's so much confusion about the William Faulkner novel since the movie's been out years ago now. But so there is some confusion when you search for us online. There's other artists. We originally had the rights to the name. We stopped using it for a while through a short hiatus. Well, an 18-year hiatus that we took. But since then, other bands kind of picked up on it and ran with it. And now now that we're working again, we found out like it's even a little bit more difficult to. If you look us up online, you'll find
there's quite a few. Yeah, there's quite a few. I looked for you on Facebook, and there was like a Celtic band. I'm going, well, I don't think that's it. Yeah. And there's a Sound of the Fury marching band. I'm going, I don't think that's them either.
So looking back, we probably could have done a little bit better as far as not to all the up and coming out there. Don't pick a famous title of a book to be your band name when you have nothing to do with it. It's really I think, what's the quote? The noise that fools make, or something like that. That we kind of thought that was just a good play on words for us, but. Jeff Wood, our singer, he really he suggested it. We all ran with it. We needed something quick, if I remember correctly, 20 plus years ago, that we had a show to play. We needed to market ourselves, and it worked for us for so many years that we never made a change. So.
Yep. Roger Earl of Foghat told me the same thing. They actually had a name for the band, but their manager did not like the name, so they came up with a Foghat on the road to meeting the record company.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a good story, though.
And what is a foghat? It's a fine chapeau to wear when it's foggy on the moors.
I wouldn't have known that.
There you go. There you go. Now you learned something from the mind of Roger Earl. I got to ask you, who are some of you mentioned Jeff? Who were some of the other members of your band?
So went to high school with Jeff. Him and I kind of started off. We picked up Jay Casson playing bass with us. He's been with us for decades. John Floyd, we picked up very shortly right out of high school when we recorded our first album. He's an amazing drummer. All the guys in the band are extremely talented guys, been doing it for years and years. Jeff's still, all this time, he's been making a living making music. That's his primary source of income. When we reunited, we realized the camaraderie that we had and kind of something special that we had working together. But Jeff, John Floyd, Jay, and then myself, Aaron, and then recently we just included my son, who's about to turn 18. He's been playing with us due to some complexities of geography and preparedness that we had, and he kind of got us all started back up again. So now my son Drake, he's playing with us now too. But the original lineup is just the four of us going all the way back to our high school years.
I got to ask you, what's the KC music scene like these days?
I don't want to sound insulting to anybody, especially our hometown and our everything. But, back in the day, the theory was you had to leave your hometown and get recognition elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. To get
respect in your hometown. And now with the way social media drives things, you can find that somebody has a huge social media presence and doesn't have a live show attendance to really brag about.
Yeah.
And then, rock, I don't know what's happened to it. I don't know if it disappeared or if it evolved into and got absorbed by country music. I don't know what's going on with rock and roll. I'm nobody to be able to figure it out and identify it, but it's more eclectic than it's ever been. When we were coming up, there was always like good hard rock clubs that had good bands every night, or at least, on the regular had great bands every night. And they might be a little bit of a rough bar, or it might be a biker bar, but music was the central theme of everybody coming together for it. And now I just don't see the live music being the draw. Mm-hmm. And I'm sad to say that. It's nothing against Kansas City. I think it's probably prevalent in many cities, but Kansas City used to be such a hot place because we had so many radio stations playing rock in Kansas City. Yeah. And we were getting radio play at the time and playing big festivals. But we had to tour in order to make a living at it, right? Now coming back and getting back enveloped in it, it's not too dissimilar that we still have to go elsewhere. We do have a built-in audience that's been great to us for all these years, and they still come see us play. But breaking through all of the options of entertainment that are out there, or I say entertainment, but I would more likely like to refer to it as distraction.
Yeah. There's a lot of noise out there, a whole lot of noise.
Yeah. That you're competing against, it used to be, bands had a little bit of sense of competition against themselves.
Right. Yeah.
All these venues had live music, and now you're competing against so many different obscure things that are grabbing other people's attention that it's really weird in the music scene right now. As far as live music goes, there are still great bands. There are still great clubs, but there's so much fewer of them, less options. And I'm hoping that, I'm hoping that it will correct itself. Mm-hmm. The market, wherever the money's going to be, wherever the market will eventually correct itself. I'm hoping that we're a part of that correction.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. Some dear friends of mine came from Kansas City, and sadly we lost one of my dear friends a while back. The band was Shooting Star from Kansas City, and we lost Van McLean a couple years back. Good guy, real good guy. I'll never forget, I was in Cincinnati, and I heard Last Chance, and I'm going, who is this band? Who is this band? And it took me forever to find the album and such, and then I became friends with the guys and featured them on a very early episode of the Someone You Should Know podcast way back in like 1999. And awesome. I sure do miss those guys, but that was one of the things from Kansas City. I always knew there's a lot of great music coming out of that area. Is the Kemper Arena still the big place? Is it even around anymore? Because I remember that was the big venue to play in Kansas City.
So the structure's there. It's now turned into a sporting event location, and now we have T-Mobile that's right in the heart of downtown. Mm-hmm. And it's replaced the Kemper.
That was the thing. I remember going, we're playing Kemper Arena coming up in a couple of days. Yeah.
That was, I can't tell you how many concerts I've been to at Kemper Arena. And it was the ugliest building as well, but it always looked like an upside down toilet bowl.
It's like a barn. Yeah. As far as the sound and everything. Yeah. There's plenty of places. I was in St. Louis for 25 years. So I was just right across the state from you. And we got a chance to see so many concerts through the years because I was on the radio there. And sometimes you get into one of these venues and it's just the reverberation back and forth. No matter where you sit, it's either a good sound or a bad sound, no matter where you are. But I remember that. Let's talk about the EP. The EP is called Memento Mori, which basically translates into Remember You Have to Die. Where did the title come from? Is that Jeff again?
No, this time I've really been pushing the band to to get back together, to do this all over again after our hiatus, with my son being involved in everything. And so I think I made like 49 different suggestions, me alone, like 49 different suggestions of album titles. And they were all cliche and cringy and horrible. Yeah. But I won't. And we voted on them. We did blind voting and through all this technology we have these days. And that one ended up being the top one that everybody had identified. But I won't lie, that of the ones on the list, that was the one I was pulling for. and a little bit of it was just, as we're getting older and reconnecting with these guys who've been my best friends for years, we all kind of took our hiatus and raised our families and everything, and now getting back into it and making an album together again and playing shows again. And that it was a little there. I mean, there is a little bit of mortality involved in the thought process that, let's do something now before we don't
all die. Yeah, exactly.
so there, it is, it is related to that as well. But again, then you find out other people have already released a song or a title or whatever. So it's like, so we're the Sound of Fury with Memento Mori. So don't get it confused. It's probably somebody else who's already used it. But no, it was just because we're aging and remember, you're not really upset with these people. You don't really have differences with these people. We're all the same. We're all going to die. We're all fighting for the same piece of scraps, right? Mm-hmm. So really, when you put everything in perspective, we just wanted to make music again and before we died.
Awesome. Very good. Let's play a track from it. The first one we're going to feature is Alpha and Omega, described as an alt-rock juggernaut with a powerful dual onslaught of guitar and drums. What's the backstory on this song?
So Jeff had actually written this song and shared it with us. So Jeff lives down in San Antonio. We're still up in Kansas City. So we do a lot of file sharing back and forth to record.
It's amazing.
And songwriting. And he shared this song concept to us. We pretty much kept it the same. And at first, he was a little bit uncomfortable about singing the lyrics because it starts off pretty strong with the content. And then when we realized the context of what he's singing about, Alpha and Omega, that, with all the technology of today, AI becoming more prominent in our lives. And I'm John Connor when it comes to AI. I'm scared to death of this stuff. I will use it so I won't get fired, or so I can, maintain, so I can keep up with the Joneses. But the song really goes back to, all of our ceremonies, all of our human to human contact, all of these things that we've come to think to believe. And then you have technology coming in. What if technology believes it is the Alpha and the Omega? What if you ask that question of AI to explain God, to explain, to explain religion, what have you? And what if its real answer would be that it's the Alpha and the Omega because it's the supremacy. And that's what I'm ultimately afraid of. So Jeff wrote this song, and it's got a huge chorus in it, great sing-along lyrics, and a big hook. So really, I got to give all the props to Jeff on this one. This is kind of his baby. All
right, Jeff, we're saluting you on this one here. Here is Alpha and Omega from the Sound and the Fury, featuring today's podcast guest, Aaron Ogle.
Kill the Father, the Son, and then the Holy Ghost. Tell your mother that God told you to make it so. Brothers and sisters,
Great song right there. The Sound And The Fury with Alpha and Omega. A link to the video to that song can be found down in the show notes, so be sure to check that out. And we got more great music coming up from Aaron Ogle and his band, The Sound and the Fury, in a few more minutes. But first, I want to say thanks so much for tuning into the Someone You Should Know podcast, heard on the World Wide Web at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast.com. If you visit our website, you'll find our recent news, our archive of more than 200 episodes, and a whole lot more. And any episodes you might have missed along the way, there's a lot of them for you to choose. You can go ahead to our back catalog and take a look at everything that we have talked to, all the guests we've talked to over the years. Buzzsprout, the service that shares us to our streaming platforms. Man, I am so impressed. 2,300 cities, 90 countries around the world, and I want to salute a couple of those, including actually some in your stomping ground, Aaron. How about Overland Park, Kansas, Topeka, Kansas, Joplin, Missouri, Excelsior Springs, Missouri, Independence, Missouri, and the fine men and women at the 509th Bomb Wing at Whiteman Air Force Base in Knob Noster, Missouri. God bless you, men and women, and thank you so very much for what you do. Please be safe. Someone You Should Know podcast heard wherever quality streaming audio is available. And we say thanks for listening. We're speaking to lead guitarist Aaron Ogle. The band is The Sound and the Fury. It's amazing what can go on because of the digital age. Things that we can now do thanks to Pro Tools, thanks to all the different type of gear you got nowadays, all the different things. You don't even need a guitar nowadays. I mean, you can make anything sound like a guitar, you know? It's just amazing. Yeah. Pros and cons. What is your favorite thing about the technology and your least favorite thing about it? I know you're talking about the Alpha and the Omega, so you might have covered the thing you don't like the most.
I love the convenience factor, but then I love being traditional at the same time. So I get stuck in both worlds. I think the cons are they've made music so easy to create that
everyone's doing it.
Yeah, people, I hate to, there's this concept that people don't need a record label anymore, mm-hmm. and people don't need radio anymore, and people don't, and all of the market is I guess proving that. But at the same time, those institutions were in place because they provided a little bit of a course correction in identifying what was good, what was marketable, what wasn't good. So all these people utilizing the technology and the ease of use of this technology in their bedrooms or in their home or what have you, it doesn't mean you're good. I mean,
yeah, exactly. I had someone say, I'm not going to be on your podcast show just because everyone's got a podcast show. And I'm going, yeah, everyone's got a podcast show, but not all of them are good. I don't want to sound arrogant at all, but I've got 44 years of radio talking here, and maybe 5,000 or 6,000 people I've interviewed. I think I might have it over at Joe Blow. So tell me, you've got an album out? Is that right? Do you play a musical instrument?
So, yeah, exactly, Rick. To your point is that, those institutions that were in place, they helped filter out the nonsense. And without those things out there, we're drinking from the fire hose of and you're sifting through a lot of nonsense before you find what you like. And I don't know about you. I don't know about every listener out there, but it's really difficult to find good new music. I question whether a lot of these artists are actually making genuine good new music, but especially in rock, I'll say, in the rock genre. But at the same time, because it's so easy to do it, we're being inundated by all these things, and there's no checks and balances to find out if it's good. It just happens to be available. If you think back in the day, when it was on the radio, that meant you heard it in public. If you were at a beach or if you went to the grocery store, in your car, you heard less variety, but you heard it more often. And usually there was something in there that was kind of confirming whether or not it was good or not. I mean,
record sales, a countdown show, something like that. Exactly. Number. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Record. Just to make a record took some sort of legitimacy back in the day, right? Yeah, exactly. The amount of effort that it took to the expense of tape, right? It took some level of like you had to earn your stripes along the way. I used to think the same thing when the 4-track and Nirvana came out and the internet was blowing up, like, this is going to be the death of music. I think social media has taken it to another tier of thinking that it's distribution. But, there's a lot of like jackass style videos out there of people punking each other and then trying to be a musician at the same time. Mm-hmm. But the music's not the focus. It's the 16-second clip of them punking somebody while they're tripping on a skateboard to the best 16 seconds of that song in the background.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean that they can do it live, right?
Well,
that doesn't mean they can do it
live. There was a time my late wife and I were actually managing bands, and we would hit some really good things coming into us to evaluate and such. And I said, no, we got to see you live, and that's where a lot of people said, okay, well then maybe we're not your right, we do our things our way type thing. It's like, no. Anyone could do anything in the studio. You can make anything sound. You can make a hammer sound like Eddie Van Halen. It's what you do on stage in front of a crowd, your stage presence, the musicality you've got, the connection you got with the band and the audience. That tells me that you're a band and a performer. Otherwise, you're just another podcast show. Any memorable moments in the recording process of the EP that you really and truly enjoyed or kind of wondered about?
We were really nervous playing together again. Everybody had been playing in some capacity. I hung up the guitar for 10 years or more and didn't even touch it. Didn't play.
Seriously, wow.
Yeah. So when we all got back together and decided, hey, we want to do this, and we booked studio time. We booked 20 hours at a local studio here in Kansas City. Massive sound studio with Paul Malinowski, who was great to us, but we didn't really know what to expect together. Even though we'd rehearsed, we'd put in the hours of rehearsal. I'm a big proponent of like the 10,000 hour rule. So we really put in the hours to prepare. But when we got to the studio, it was just the rhythm section of the band. So guitar, bass, drums, and my son playing. So two guitars, sorry. Jeff had not joined us yet. And we thought it was going to take all 20 hours. And Paul, to his credit, he had set us up right from the very beginning. He had the drums ready to go. We just added a couple pieces of to the drum set and mic'd up the guitars. And we recorded that album, so Alpha and Omega that you just played, that is us live in the studio doing that with no Pro Tools tricks of overdubs, no cut-ins.
Props to you. That is something that so many bands refuse to do nowadays. And I'm going, that's the way it should have been from the start. The drummer coming in and recording his thing on Monday, and then Thursday, the lead guitarist comes in, and then the bass. No. Play as a band.
And Rick, we thought we were going to do it that way. That's why we booked 20 hours to just get started. And we thought it would turn into 40 and 60 and 80. In 3.5 hours, we'd recorded 4 songs, which was our initial intention. Let's just knock out 4, call it good. After 3.5 hours, and we had knocked out those songs with no overdubs. And we decided, well, we got more time. Let's record 2 more that we kind of had on the shelf. We'd been rehearsing as well, but we didn't know if we'd have the time to do it, really was the reason. So we recorded 2 more, and we still had 3 hours left in that 10-hour slot, and that's with a lot of hanging out.
That is amazing.
So listen back to those tracks. We thought we were going to go back and do guitars separately and cut and paste and all this stuff. And I secretly, kind of like the album title, I was pushing Paul. He kept asking me, hey, what's our goal today? What are we here to get done? Just drums, right? We're just here to get drums. I was like, yeah, sure. But can you go ahead and mic the guitars? Well, could we go act like these are good, these are keep tracks? And he's like, okay. But then later he comes to me and goes, okay, but these are scratch tracks, right? We're really only going to keep the drums, right? I was like, well, we'll see. Yeah. But he captured it, and we were all in the same room together. Our equipment, our amps were railed in ISO booths around us, but we were all right there with John Floyd. And to be able to do that with my son recording, on this, it was now we did fly in Jeff after the fact. We spent a whole day doing vocals, and we really told him, it's the vocals. It's what everybody's going to sing along to. So we said, do whatever you want to do vocal wise. And he really impressed us, specifically in that Alpha and Omega. The harmony tracks that he did on that really jumped out compared to the basement recordings we'd been doing basically in preparation. So, it took a little bit more time to do the vocals, but Jeff jumped off a plane. I picked him up at the airport, took him straight to the studio and said, start singing. And we didn't think about the pressure in his head. We didn't think about all acclimating to the environment.
You boy, sit there, sing.
And he did it. He nailed it. And it was, so as much as the vocals were done separately, the band itself was all recorded live. I did one guitar solo after the fact, only because I played rhythm through the guitar solo just for the sake of that's how it was meant to be. Added the guitar solo, and it was like even some of the tracks, the guitar solos were done live in the studio as well. So I'm really impressed with us as a band to, after all these years, to be able to put in the time, the effort, the dedication, get together, get in the studio. And to your point about technology earlier, and even the live scene earlier, your comment about you and your wife, evaluating bands live before you decide whether to do business with them. We've always had that similar concept. Can a band pull it off live? Yeah. And this is it is a studio album, but we wanted to keep that vibe of it being as close, not to a live album in front of an audience, but that live feeling, that vibe. So I'm very proud of it.
The other thing about that, first, I want to say once again, props again for you guys doing it that way, because when you wind up having so many overdubs, and when the band finally performs in front of a crowd, the crowd's going, well, what about this? What about that? Unless they got the backing tracks. It's like, what about, wasn't there that little nuance where you played the guitar like this way? Well, you're already playing guitar. You can't go ahead and do an overdub on yourself while you're playing at the same time,
Yeah.
But, that's amazing. Let's play another song from the album, Memento Mori. This is Freedom. What's the story on Freedom?
Wow. So Freedom was an afterthought song. I had wrote this real fat, dumb riff, and John Floyd.
So was this one of the two extra songs? Is this one of the two?
This was one of the two.
Oh, jeez.
So
turned out good.
It turned out to be one of our favorites. But I had this big fat dumb riff, and John Floyd, and we were working it up here in our home studio here, and John Floyd was struggling playing the drums to it. What am I going to write to this? And John Floyd's a progressive style drummer. He does a lot of unique things on the drums. He's not just a four on the floor straight ahead guy. So I was giving him a hard time, say, "Come on, man, what's the problem?" He goes, "I'm struggling with this one." I said, "Man, it's nothing fancy." He goes, "All right, I got it." And the part he wrote right then is the part that's on the album. I mean, he still, he improved it a little bit, but that's the vibe of what he wrote. And the swing in that song, I love Jeff's lyrics, singing about freedom and singing about wokeism and singing about, you don't know what side he's singing on, but he's singing about that cancel culture and it's a rock and roll song. Rock and roll was supposed to be gritty, right? Rock and roll was not supposed to be a conformist. And I think a little bit of that is lost in today's day and age, that even in the live scene, that where's the rebel in the music? Where's that element? And we're all too afraid of getting canceled out. So Jeff is singing about that. And it's about that, having that freedom of speech from the people you wish would shut up.
All right, let's feature that right now. Here's Freedom from The Sound of the Fury, featuring today's guest, Aaron Ogle.
Traumatized by all those
Great song right there. That is Freedom from the EP Memento Mori. Aaron Ogle's our guest from The Sound and the Fury. One thing that you guys have been touring for a long, long time. You guys have been out on the road. You've played enough gigs, load-ins, load-outs, and such. The next feature is perhaps one of our favorites. It is called Tales from the Road. These are the infamous road stories where things didn't go quite as planned. Kind of think of your Spinal Tap moment. Aaron, what would you say would be that particular moment for either you or the band?
Well, you mentioned St. Louis, and I don't know if I'm sure you probably remember a club called Pops.
Pops nightclub, you betcha. Yeah. right in the red light district there, over there in Sauget, Illinois.
Yeah, so we played a lot of places in St. Louis, being just across the state. Mississippi Nights was a great club for us. I can't even name. It's so many years we played all the places, but we got booked in this bar called Pops, and we didn't know what we were in for, and it was a 24-hour bar.
Yep.
And never closed, and we were booked from midnight to 5 a.m. if I remember.
Dear God.
And we were pretty young at the time. And we show up, and I remember they had this giant curtain that separated half the bar.
Yep.
And like 12 hours over here and 12 hours over there type of thing.
Yeah, that's to clean the blood off the floor.
Yeah. So we get up and play, and it's a rough part of town. There ain't a lot out there on that far east, and it was dead. It was completely dead. We're playing at midnight, and it felt like one of those gigs. Like, why are we doing this? Yep. We should have known midnight to 5 a.m. I don't remember another bar doing that, but so. We get up to play, and they said, "Oh, don't worry about 3 o'clock. This place is going to fill."
3 o'clock in the morning.
Packed.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got a lot of shift workers, maybe.
Well, and that's when all the strip clubs closed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, strip clubs are right. Folks, for those of you who don't know, Sauget, Illinois East St. Louis is right across the bridge, and Sauget, Illinois is just a little south of the real bad area. Okay, and there's a lot of strip clubs, like Aaron was saying. There's a lot of strip clubs in that general area, and that's why I say the red light district and such. But that makes sense, Aaron, doesn't it? Now,
it filled up, and they had to take a pause during our set to have the best chest of the Midwest contest.
There you go. There you go. I was going to say you had to perform topless, I'm guessing. Little tassels.
So that wasn't what was expected, but I got one that is a personal one if we have time. So we played Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and I go meet with the sound guy. It's a huge club. Go in there, go check with the sound guy and say, I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but I said, "Hey, is there anything we could do to make it sound better tonight?" And he's an old crusty guy, probably deaf in both ears. And he said, "Yeah, you could give me a bump before the show." Well, I didn't know what a bump was. I was a young kid on tour. So I just kind of knuckled him.
Oh, fist bump. Okay.
Yeah. But that's not what he meant. So then we got him played, and I noticed everybody was going to this one-seater bathroom in pairs, and I didn't understand what was going on. I'm sitting. We got done playing. The show was great. Manager comes up to us. "Hey, we got to have you back. You guys are awesome." And I'm sitting on this couch, and I have our cooler full of bottled water and Coca-Cola or whatever sitting there because that's what we had in the cooler.
Right, exactly.
And he comes up and goes, "Hey, man, you guys are great. We got to have you back. Hey, I'll talk to your booking agent, blah, 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 blah. Do you guys need any Coke for the road?" And I was like, "Oh, no, man, cooler's full. We're good." Had no idea. So we're driving down the highway to the next show 3 hours later, and one of the guys in the band goes, "Man, that place was full of cocaine." And I was like, Oh my God.
No, that's a great Tales from the Road. Aaron, excellent job. I applaud you, sir. I applaud you. Very, very good. That was a great Tales from the Road.
Show my naivety. Yeah.
Oh my God. Let's talk about social media. What's the best way for people to reach out and hook up with the band?
So if you look up the Sound the Fury band on any Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, you'll find us there.
Okay.
We on everything that I'm seeing, we're showing up at the top. As long as you put in the Sound and the Fury, all spelled out, all 5 words, and put band after that, the Sound the Fury band, you'll find us right at the top. And then you'll see me, of course, and then you'll know that you're at the right spot.
But very good.
YouTube, we've been putting a lot of stuff on YouTube. We have lyric videos we've been putting on there. We don't do a podcast, but we do kind of announcements on there, little short clips of videos. Good. John Floyd and I are good friends, and we're always teasing each other. We put some stuff on there before and after shows, stuff like that. So
very good.
Please check out our YouTube channel as well.
We will include all those down in the show notes, because if anyone's driving right now, I'm sure they're going to go, what was that now? What was that? Okay. Excuse me, officer. I was listening to a podcast, and I was trying to get this information. But
right.
yeah, we'll do is we'll put in the show notes. So if anyone is wanting to hook up and find out when you guys are going to play out, we'll go ahead and definitely post that too. Final track we're going to feature is called "The First Rule." And what is the backstory on the first rule?
We wrote that one here, wrote it all together, formatted it all, sent it to Jeff, and he quickly threw some lyrics on it. And he sent it back and didn't sing over certain sections that we thought he should sing over. So we sent it back to him and said, no, you're going to sing here and here and here. And, and he just, it's one of the rare times that the band wrote a song that we did not evolve for the singer's melody. He just wrote the melody straight to the band without any changes in the format. So as a band, we were really happy about that. But the lyrics, the first rule, I'm still trying to figure this one out, to be honest with you. We used to tease Jeff and call this song Fight Club to begin with, because we didn't know what the first rule was. So we assumed it was a Fight Club reference. But after listening to it again, I'm not unlike Freedom, Jeff likes to sing about a lot of current events and social causes. It's not political in any way, but it has to do with basically knowing when it's appropriate to speak and knowing when it's not. There's a little bit of "this isn't hell, your home" is the main chorus in there, about just loving what you got. What else is, what's better? What better option is out there, right? But being afraid to speak your mind for being canceled out is how I interpret this song. But Jeff will probably have to correct me on that.
No worries. We're going to play that song to wrap up the show. It has been a delight to have you on, Aaron. This is it's some great music here. I wish you well with everything else you got going for the remainder of 2024. And it's been an absolute delight having you on the show, bud.
Well, thank you, Rick. I really appreciate it. This has been an enjoyable time. Thank you.
The universe gives us life, and we choose to watch it burn. The universe gives us time, then we want another turn. We've all evolved in our minds, no one seems a bit concerned. I am a bit concerned. Some people think when we die, we move through an endless light. The living pray to their gods, then move through an endless light. If you were worried before, you got a hold of the war that lives in parts of your brain that you can never explain. This ain't hell, it's your home. This ain't hell, it's your home. This ain't hell, it's your home. We all do what we're told, everybody falls in line. Meanwhile, your mind is no longer asked to question why. If you can't hop on the train of life being explained the way they want it explained, then you get pushed off the train. This ain't hell, it's your home. This ain't hell, it's your home. This ain't hell, it's your home. Shots fired. You broke the first rule. Shots fired. You thought to think out This ain't hell, it's your home. 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 Shots fired. Shots fired. Shots fired. You broke the first rule.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.